Imagine one day that you get up and decide to get into your car. You're going to drive to a destination that you've never been to before, that you don't know anything about. Now imagine getting into the car with no sat-nav and no map. No way of knowing how to get there because you've never been there before. Can you imagine the wrong turnings you're going to make, the wrong highways you're going to go down, how many times you're going to have to turn the car around and maybe start all over again? Do you think at this point a map or a sat-nav might be useful to get you to that place, to that point in time that you want to go to? This is very much concerning the laws of attraction. When you get into a car with no sat-nav, no map, this is what it feels like when we're trying to navigate through life without having a real understanding that there are various laws of nature, universal laws to abide by in order to win the game of life. If we choose to ignore the natural laws of the universe, or if we simply do not have an understanding for them, we don't need to be reminded that we will experience struggle, we will experience resistance, unfulfilled destinies. We will not get to our destination, we will not get to where we want to be. We will go through pain, we will go through lack of direction. It has always been in the nature of humanity to believe mostly in the things that we can see, feel, taste, hear or touch, while doubting anything else that is beyond the perceptions of our immediate senses. However, whether you believe in it or not, the universal laws influence our everyday lives and we can't change that. You can liken the universal laws to a deep tree root buried underground with which ordinary eyes cannot see, and yet the roots exert so much influence on the tree because without the roots a tree couldn't stand, a tree could not live. So I'm going to go through a little bit of the 12 universal laws so that we all have an understanding of us. Most of us that are on our spiritual path already have an understanding of the spiritual laws when we're awake enough to see them, but there may come a point in time when we don't rely on governmental laws, we don't rely on military laws, the laws of the police, the laws of the land, and we have this inherent, our soul wants to go by the universal laws. So let's have a look and see which each one means and how they affect you as well. The first law is the law of oneness, or sometimes called the law of mentalism. It's also an immutable law. This means that it is absolute, it can never be changed, it can never be transmuted. It's an external law. So the first of the 7 universal laws tells us that all the mind, the universe is mental, that everything we see and experience in our physical world has its origins in the invisible mental realm. It tells us there is a single universal consciousness from which all things manifest. All energy and matters at all levels is created and is subordinate to the omnipresent universal mind. Your mind is part of the universal mind, the same in kind, with the only difference being one of degree. So your reality is a manifestation of your mind. This is true mind power. Another way of looking at this, it helps us to understand the world we live in, that everything is connected to everything else. Every thought, word, action and belief of ours affects others in the universe and around us, irrespective of whether the people are near or far away from us. In other words, it goes beyond time and space. The second universal law is the law of vibration. Again, this is an immutable law, which means it cannot be changed and it cannot be transcended at all. The law of vibration says that nothing rests, everything moves and everything vibrates. It tells us that the whole universe is nothing but a vibration. Science has confirmed that everything in the universe, including you, is pure energy vibrating at different frequencies. Energy attracts like energy. This is what the law of attraction is based on. It has its foundation in this law. Everything that we experience within our 5 physical senses is conveyed through vibrations. The same applies to the mental realm. Your thoughts are vibrations, all your emotions are vibrations. Where unconditional love, in the sense of love for another person or another thing, is the highest and most subtle of the emotional vibrations, and hate is the densest and the most base of emotions. You can learn to control your mental vibrations at will, and this is true. Another way of looking at the law of vibration, it just says that like attracts like. The reason why we say that is if you are not happy with your current vibration, you need to make a conscious choice to focus your energy on more positive emotions and less on negative emotions in order to raise your vibration higher beyond the one that you want in your life. If you don't want any more bad news coming to you, do not be the one to start spreading it around to others, or it will come back to you. By giving what you want and what you desire, you indirectly increase that comes back to you. The third law is pretty simple. This is the law of action. The law of action must be applied in order for us to manifest things here on earth. Therefore, to do this, we have to engage in actions that support our words, our feelings, our vision, our thoughts, our dreams, and our emotions. These actions will bring us manifestations of varying results, which are dependent on our specifically chosen words, thoughts, dreams, and emotions. When you line up your thoughts with your emotions, when you line up your focus with your emotions, that's when your manifestation powers are the most powerful and the most liable to come into manifest for you. Number 4 is the law of correspondence. This is another immutable sign, which means it can't be changed and is outside of us. It tells us that as above, so below. This means that there is harmony, agreement, and correspondence between the mental, the physical, and the spiritual realms. There's no separation, since everything is in the universe, including you. Everything originates from one source. The same pattern is expressed on all planes of existence, from the smallest electron to the largest star, and vice versa. All is one. The ancient Greek temple of Apollo at Delphi was referring to this great law of correspondence in the inscription, "Know thyself, and thou shalt know all the mysteries of the gods in the universe." Another way of looking at this is it puts us into the driver's seat of our own lives. Our outer world is a direct reflection of our inner world. Therefore, we need to accept responsibility for our own lives. Another good example for this law is the fact that in the physical world, energy, vibration, light, and motion have their corresponding principles in the universe. This explains the relationship between the world of the infinite small and the infinite large, otherwise called the microcosm and the macrocosm respectively. Number 5 is the law of cause and effect. Now this is one of the mutable laws. This means that they can be transcended, or they can be better used to create your ideal reality. It isn't to say that you should ignore the laws that are mutable, or even attempt to defy them, because they still govern your existence. The aim is to master each of them and learn to transcend the mutable ones. So if we look at the law of cause and attraction, the law of cause and effect, states that nothing happens by chance. Nothing happens outside the universal laws. We have to take responsibility for everything that happens in our lives. Every action we have has an equal reaction or a consequence, and it's that we sow what we reap. If you plant a daisy, you can't expect to have a rose grow there. In other words, every thought, action, word is full of energy. Every word that you speak is full of energy. Another way of trying to explain this is every effect that you see in your outside or physical world has a very specific cause, which has its origin in your inner or mental world. This is the essence of thought power. Every one of your thoughts, words, or actions sets a specific event in motion, which will come to materialize over time. To become the master of your destiny, you must master your mind, for everything in your reality is a mental creation. Know that there is nothing like chance or luck. They are simple terms used by humanity in ignorance of this particular law. Number 7 is the law of attraction. Now, depending on what you read, whether it's 12 laws or 7 laws, this isn't always mentioned. This is because, not to diminish its importance, it's not specifically mentioned because it's the basic law of the universe which runs through all of the major 7 universal laws. It holds everything together. It's through the knowledge of law of attraction that one can rise above the mutable laws that we have, like polarity and rhythm, which I'm going to go into in a minute, and then you can gain a better understanding of each of the 7 laws. Now, like I said, some do 7, some do 12, so I'm going to go through, I'm doing all 12. So the law of attraction shows us how we create the events, the people and the things which come into our lives. All our thoughts, our words, our feelings, our actions give out energies which likewise attract like energies. So if you are a spiritual person, you are more likely to attract spiritual people to you. If you are in a negative energy, and maybe you are an alcoholic or someone is a drug addict, they tend to attract alcoholics or drug addicts to them. So positive energies will always attract positive energies, while negative energies will always attract negative energies. It doesn't matter whether you want the negative or not. What you place your attention on is what you attract into your life. On the other hand, if you don't like negative, you just need to raise your vibration higher and away from it in order to fully apply the law of attraction to work for you. For example, when anyone starts out thinking negatively, their vibration gets lowered, as the focus on the problem rather than the solution becomes very intense. The size and number of the problem will magnify, as that's where the person's focus is at that time. Number 8. Number 8 is the law of perpetual transmutation of energy. The law of perpetual transmutation of energy is a really powerful one. It states that we all have the power within us to change any condition in our lives that we are not happy with. Higher energy vibration will definitely consume and transform lower ones. Light always shines onto dark. Therefore, we can change the energies in our lives by understanding the universal laws and applying the principles in such a way as to effect a positive change in our lives and possibly the lives of people around us as well. Number 9 is the law of relativity. The law of relativity states that each person will receive a series of situations or problems, tests, for the purpose of strengthening the inner light within us. This law makes it possible for us to stay connected to our hearts when we proceed to solve the problems or remedy the situation which has been brought to us as a test. This law also teaches us to compare our situations to other people's problems and put everything into its right perspective. No matter how bad we perceive our situations to be, there is always somebody else who is in a more difficult or a worse situation, thereby making it all relative. Nobody is ever given a problem they are unable to handle, as we already have the ability to handle them. We already have the answers inside of us. So don't spend time looking for happiness from the outside, because it already lies within you. Number 10 is the law of polarity. The law of polarity states that everything is on a continuum and has an opposite. There has to be a darkness so that we can appreciate the light. There is solid and liquid so that we can see and we can feel the difference with. Love and hate are the opposites of each other. We have the ability to suppress and transform undesirable thoughts by focusing on the opposite, thereby bringing the desired positive change. This can also be likened to the law of the mental vibration. Everything is dual, and everything has its poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. Opposites are identical in nature but different in degree. It is also the first of the mutable, transcendable universal laws. That means that there are two sides to everything. Things that appear as opposites are in fact only two extremes of the same thing. For example, heat and cold may appear to be opposites at first glance, but in truth they are simple varying degrees of the same thing. The same applies to love and hate, peace and war, positive and negative, good and evil, yes and no, energy and matter. You can transform your thoughts from hate to love, from fear to courage, by consciously raising your vibrations. The principle of duality, and rising above it may appear to be very real in your life, but it operates only in the physical and mental realms, not in the spiritual realm where all is one. God is above the opposites. By always placing the all-powerful, all-knowing Creator that you are a part of behind every thought, statement and action, and by always focusing on the good in everything, even when things appear to be going bad, then in time you will rise above the polarity, and this is what makes it a mutable sign. Number 11 is the law of rhythm. This is another mutable law, which means it can be transcended, it can be raised above. Everything flows in and out. Everything has its tides. Everything rises and falls. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. It is another mutable or transcendable universal law, and that means that the pendulum swings in everything. This principle can be seen in an operation in the waves of the ocean, in the rise and fall of the greatest empires, in business cycles, in the swaying of your thoughts from being positive to being negative, and in your personal success and failures. In accordance with this law, when anything reaches a point of culmination, then the backward swing almost becomes noticeable until such time that any forward movement has been totally reversed. Then the forward movement begins again and the process is repeated. To get above and to rise above the law of rhythm, to transcend the swing of the pendulum, you must become aware of the subtle art of the backward movement in any of your endeavours, whether it is to improve your health, your finances, your relationships, or any goal that you set in motion. When you feel the law start to draw you back, don't become fearful or discouraged. Instead, knowing that you are one with the omnipotent universal mind for which nothing is impossible, keep your thoughts focused on your outcome and fight to remain positive no matter how far back this law pulls you. Even if your efforts meet with failure, find comfort by the virtue of this very same law. The upward motion must start again. In time, your perseverance will be rewarded as the backward movements become less negative relative to your previous backward swings and you raise yourself higher. So keep going and stay strong. And finally, the last universal law is the law of gender. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. This is a mutable universal law, and it's evident throughout creation in the so-called opposite sexes, found not only in human beings but also in plants, minerals, electrons, and magnetic poles, but to name a few. Everything and everyone contains both masculine and feminine elements. Among the outward expressions of feminine qualities are love, patience, intuition, and gentleness, and of the masculine qualities are energy, self-reliance, logic, and intellect. Know that within every woman lies all the latent qualities of a man, and with every man those of a woman. When you know this, you will know what it means to be complete.